Welcome to the No Sugarcoating Podcast. I am Amber Romaniuk, emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert. I am also the founder of amberapproved.ca. I support professional women achieve optimal health through mindful eating, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. This podcast provides the honest truth on what you really need to create body freedom. The No Sugarcoating Podcast provides information on healthy living, lifestyle changes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. Always seek the advice of your healthcare practitioner regarding your health and nutrition program. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 211 of the No Sugarcoating Podcast. This week, I'm really excited to have Karina Birch, the owner of Rocky Mountain Soap Company, here on the podcast talking about the importance of natural skincare. So we'll be diving into that right away. So excited. I've been a huge fan of Rocky Mountain Soap Company for like 10 years. I started using their deodorant, and now pretty much our whole house contains most of their products that we use on a daily basis, from lip balms to hand soaps to soap in the shower to, essential oil mists and all sorts of wonderful lotions and holiday products. So really excited to dive in. Happy American Thanksgiving to all of my wonderful neighbors in the United States. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday and a great week, and I hope that you really enjoy time with friends and family, great food, and make great memories. So the show notes for today's episode can be found at amberapproved.ca/podcast/211. Be sure to subscribe to the No Sugarcoating Podcast on all podcast apps. It's, of course, the one with the photo of yours truly. You can click the link in the show notes as well and listen to all episodes at amberapproved.ca/podcast-archive. So I've been talking about mindful eating, feeling grateful for the body that you live in, and I want to just give you guys a friendly reminder that there's still an opportunity to take advantage of the fall coaching sale. So are you wanting to master mindful eating and build a healthy relationship with food? Perhaps you're wondering what exactly mindful eating is. Well, do you find yourself eating on the run, eating and multitasking, eating out of boredom, or eating to the point where you just feel like you've lost control of food and then you just feel guilt and regret? These are all signs of mindless eating that I support my clients to overcome. Maybe you want to eat more mindfully, but find social settings and peer pressure trigger you to overindulge, which leaves you feeling bloated, inflamed, and unhappy. Building a mindful relationship with food allows you to enjoy your food and chew it properly, feel satisfied and satiated, support balanced blood sugar, eliminate cravings, prevents binges and emotional eating, and of course, building a newfound confidence within yourself. Take a moment and imagine what it would feel like to eat mindfully without distractions from your phone, TV, or computer. How would it feel to take your lunch break to enjoy your food? To be free of bloating, digestive disruptions, cravings, and low energy because you decided you wanted to learn how to master mindful eating. When you learn mindfulness, you feel more gratitude and appreciation on a regular basis for big and small action steps you take to support your health and body freedom. When my clients learn how to eat mindfully, not only do their physical symptoms improve, like bloating and low energy, they build a deeper appreciation for how they feel physically and emotionally. And of course, in celebration of building a healthy relationship with food, I am offering my gratitude savings for my 6-month and 1-year coaching programs. If you are ready to invest in your health and have a conversation, be sure to email me at info@amberapproved.ca with the subject line Fall Coaching Sale to book your 30-minute complimentary body freedom call. We will connect online and talk more about your health goals and struggles and where you're seeking support. And I will share with you how I work with my clients and the coaching programs I have available. Building a healthy relationship with food and mindful self-care practices allow you to reach optimal health and have a new appreciation for your body and food. Amazing. You deserve it. What a great gift to give yourself this holiday season. And if you are curious if you're struggling with mindless or emotional eating, go to amberapproved.ca and take the emotional eating quiz. The link for that will be in the show notes. And to hear the rest of today's announcements, be sure to listen all the way through to the end of today's episode. And if you're finding a specific eating style isn't working for you, you're struggling with emotional eating, food addiction, digestive issues, inflammation, you suspect your hormones are off, but you don't know where to start, your self-care continues to be a struggle, your schedule is overbooked, and you are on the low end of your priority list, well, you're in the right place, because these are all of the topics and habits that I will continue to talk about diving into the mindsets to set you on a different path. Amber Approved offers private coaching for hormonal imbalances, weight loss and digestive issues, emotional eating, and more. Contact Amber at amberapproved.ca to book your 30-minute complimentary consultation today. So I want to introduce my guest, and I'm honestly just a huge fan of Karina because I absolutely love her company and I love what she has created and what she stands for. So Karina Birch is the co-owner and CEO of Rocky Mountain Soap Company. She and her husband Cam nurtured the company from its beginnings in the year 2000 as a small shop in Canmore, Alberta, Canada, to now 13 retail locations and a 17,000 square foot workshop. Rocky Mountain Soap creates a small batch beauty products using simple, natural, and fresh ingredients, building relationships with Canadian farmers to use high-quality, healthy skincare ingredients in their recipes. Karina spends her time directing Rocky's strategy, product development, and brand. Since their earliest days, she and Cam have focused on fostering a strong company culture that empowers people to give it a go, reminds them to be kind, and encourages positivitude. I love that. Rocky Mountain Soap has been included in the Profit 100 and Alberta Ventures fastest growing companies. Karina has been honored as an AWE Celebration of Achievement recipient, female entrepreneur on the W100 list. She is a current member and past board member of Entrepreneurs Organization Calgary. She also completed the Harvard Business School's Owner-President Management program. So welcome, Karina, to the No Sugarcoating podcast. I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
Well, thanks for having me, Amber. I've been really looking forward to this because I know, in the past, we've had a couple chances to have some of these really interesting conversations. And I think a podcast is a great way to dig deeper into some of these issues and share that.
100%. And, I think that's, what we put on our skin. Everyone always says, oh, be mindful of what you eat. But I think that what we're putting onto our skin also can have such an impact. And I'm going to get into your story of you and how all of this started for you and Rocky Mountain Soap Company, because this business and brand has evolved so much over the years. But I think that, part of the reason why I wanted to have you on was because I got some testing done, and it indicated that my lymphatic system was extremely sluggish. So even though I'd done all this great work with my hormones and like my digestion, I still was getting a lot of water retention. And so I did this testing and it came back. And whilst I was already, putting good things on my skin, realizing that, my lymphatic system, which is so important for cleaning up a lot of the junk and getting it out of the body, is kind of hanging on to it, really got me thinking like, wow, how fascinating, and how many people are not necessarily using natural skincare and other environmental stuff is going into their bodies, and then it's just sitting there for who knows how long. So it can have such an impact, essentially. So what I'd love for you to share first is just for the audience, what is Rocky Mountain Soap Company? What inspired you to come in and contribute to create such an amazing natural skin, hair, and body care company?
Sure. So, Rocky Mountain Soap Company is a company that I've had for, it'd be 20 years now. So we started my husband and I in January of 2000. I was 24 at the time. And I think, having, been right out of university and quite naive was such a benefit to me, because when I look back to my childhood, both of my parents had been raised on a farm, and then as kids, we spent a lot of time on our grandparents' farms. And I felt like, during my childhood, I was always very connected to our food and really got to see that natural, almost like that natural lifestyle from the very beginning. And so when, at 24, when my husband and I bought this small home-based business off of Trisha Pearson, to me, it was very obvious that this was a way to take, what I felt was my kind of food and diet philosophy and being connected to the ingredients we eat, but then taking that into the bath and body industry as well. And so this company was a way for me to bridge that gap. At that time, you can imagine 20 years ago, natural was not a trend. Mm-hmm. It was something that consumers were shopping with the brand for, it was first and foremost a brand that people loved the quality of the product, and the fact that it was 100% natural was an added benefit. But fast forward to today, that's all we do, and all we have done for 20 years is making 100% natural beauty products. And that oftentimes is the reason why customers are shopping with us today. So it's really switched. And, as you mentioned, how you're learning about your own lymphatic system, there's so much coming out now that was not out 20 years ago in terms of cosmetic ingredients, the impact of the body. I mean, we're at this really interesting moment in history where we're just really touching the surface in terms of, our skincare products and our health.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. And it's so great that it's getting more attention, and it's really getting more research, and it's being looked into, because I think it does play a huge role. Because as I was just sharing with you earlier, like if I put something on my skin and now my lymphatic system and I am so in tune that I can then taste it like 30 seconds later, like that to me is a sign that something is absorbing into my skin, something is going into my body. And so why is it so important that Rocky Mountain Soap Company creates 100% natural ingredients? Because I see, a lot of companies out there that claim they're natural, but then you flip over the container and you look at the ingredients and there's a bunch of stuff that you can't pronounce that doesn't come from nature. So why is that so integral for you?
Well, it's important for me both as a personal philosophy and I guess as I think a responsibility that we have to make good choices knowing what we know now. So if you spent time with me, you'd know that, living in a small mountain town, it's already feel the pressure to lead a healthy lifestyle in terms of getting outdoors, spending time in nature, being active. I take that into my diet as well, and the food that I eat. And so this is a natural, just a natural part of my life, is to have this ability in my career to be able to make healthy skin products as well. And, it very much is pioneering. We are definitely pioneering the industry. Like I said, there's so much that has been baked into the last couple decades of the industry in terms of formulation, not even natural formulation. In some aspects, we're going back to the old way of doing things, and then in many other types of formulations, we're reinventing the future of formulation. But there's this whole history of traditional formulation and science that has really set the foundation for which most brands are still formulating to. And it's hard to get away from that. And I understand that. Working with chemists in the industry who've been in it for a long time, I understand how we got there. And I understand the difficulty of moving past that, which is why I think these smaller brands like Rocky Mountain Soap and all these other indie brands popping up, is it gives the industry a fresh perspective on, starting from scratch and really going down to the ingredient level. Because what's happened is in the industry is we've formulated traditionally, as an industry, we've formulated for the formulation rather than the skin. And what that means is that we formulate to create certain physical attributes for a product. So if you take a skin cream, like a face cream as an example, while traditional formulation or formulation chemists would say, well, okay, before it even goes to focus groups, before it even goes to marketing, we need a base that is white, that is scent free, that has a certain gloss, that is stable, that has a certain luster to it. So there's 6 or 7 different physical attributes that the formulation has to achieve before we even start to look at and what is going to benefit the skin and what is going to be our marketing claim. Whereas what we've done is said, well, we're actually going to start with the skin ingredients first. How are we going to achieve healthy skin? And then almost secondary, it becomes, oh, well, then, okay, we have all the ingredients we want to benefit skin. Is it stable? Is it, and then we go back and say, okay, well, now what do we have to do? So we're almost like, we approach our formulation from the complete opposite philosophy. And so I think when we do that, we're breaking away. And now I think we're this is where it then becomes an ingredient discussion. And I think that understanding how traditionally the industry's been formulating cosmetics and skincare ingredients, understanding how we got here is important to then looking ahead and what needs to change.
The No Sugarcoating podcast is proud to partner with Rocky Mountain Soap Company, a Canadian company that believes the earth provides more than enough natural ingredients to give us beautiful and healthy skin for life, so you can shop with the freedom of knowing that everything they make is safe and good for you, your family, and the environment. Shop natural at one of their 13 retail locations across Canada or online worldwide at www.rockymountainsoap.com. I love that you guys are taking that different approach and you start, with the formulation the way that you do, because I think so much is focused on like, oh, let's, market toward like fine lines and wrinkles and that stuff's all great. But it's like, if that's having, as an example, potentially a negative impact on like someone's toxic load, or it's, making their estrogen dominance worse, or it's stressing out their liver, it's like, well, there's all these other potential like physical imbalances that may be going on because of, this collective of different toxic loads that are being put into the body, whether it's via food, our environment, our skincare, makeup, whatever that is. And I think that starts to add up over time. So what I want to kind of talk about next is we do have a toxic load. And, a lot of the recommendations that I start to make with my clients, if I'm seeing high estrogen and I'm seeing hormone imbalances and their livers are very sluggish and they have slow lymphatic systems, is let's start to slowly lighten your toxic load with what we can control, which, that is, food and where that's being sourced from. That is, certain stressors we can start to manage. And it is also what we're putting on our skin. So one of the first things that I start to recommend is slowly, let's, clean up your deodorant, because that's absorbing right away. Lymphatic system is there. And then maybe let's go with like your shampoo and conditioner and your lotion and whatever it is that you are putting on your skin on a daily basis or multiple times a day. So why is it important to segue to these, 100% natural ingredients with skincare to support the, lowering the toxic load in the body?
Yeah, well, I guess, 20 years ago when I started in this industry, it really was the common knowledge at that time was that whatever we put onto our skin, the skin acted as a barrier and it didn't absorb, the products that we were putting on it. And then, sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s, we started to, the community or the industry started to discover that, hey, actually some of these ingredients are showing up in blood tests, they're showing up in umbilical cord tests, they're showing up in tissue in breast cancer. And not to say it's causing breast cancer, I think that's still to be determined. Mm-hmm. But the fact that these ingredients are showing up in the body started to pose a lot of questions. And then we started to look at skin absorption rates and molecular size of some of these ingredients, and then what was actually happening. And so it almost went from the skin is not absorbing to the skin is absorbing, but these ingredients or these chemicals are being excreted out through the urine and sweat. Mm-hmm. And then it was, hey, wait a minute, they're not. Mm-hmm. And so now fast forward to today, when we look at liver health, when we look at hormone health and estrogen dominance, we know now that these ingredients have the potential to be absorbed into the body, which means they have the ability to be absorbed into the blood. If they're in the blood, they go to the liver. If the liver doesn't have the appropriate enzyme to break down that ingredient, now you have liver toxicity. Mm-hmm. And so, when we look at our ingredient research and the health of each one of our ingredients, that's one of the things that we look at. So we look at Cosmetic Ingredient Review, which is a great journal for us to be able to look at the toxicity studies that have been done on skincare ingredients. So we have an understanding of, the health of these ingredients. The thing is, I guess part of what I'm painting a picture on is also not including the load factor that you talked about. So what we do know, we know the skin absorbs. We know that if the skin absorbs and goes into the liver and the liver doesn't have the enzyme to break down that ingredient, you have liver toxicity. Then, but let's also talk about, the load, right? Like we know that women apply 12 or more products a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you accumulate that over the number of years of a life.
Yeah.
And that adds up to a load that the body can't handle appropriately. And so, and when we're talking about skincare ingredients, that's only one way of overloading the body, which is, I think, what you're seeing some of your clients.
Yeah, 100%. And so it's again, it goes to that, we're potentially exposed to heavy metals. Like that's even something that I've explored and with some of my clients. And even though they've never worked in an industry where they're exposed to that, they're showing up with high heavy metals, and it's our environment, or, it could be certain tests or certain ingredients and, different things that we're taking in. And then you look at food, you look at, again, what you're putting on your skin, and you look at, what did you inherit from your parents that they innocently passed on to you when they had you, right? Like there's all these different components that are impacting our air, our water, our food, and again, what we're putting on our skin, and it starts to add up so innocently that we don't realize it. Because like you said, like 20 years ago compared to now, there was not A, the evidence as you're mentioning, and B, the research and the, deep exploration as there is now to work on shifting that. Because as we know, just as a general, kind of exploration, you go back to what you say about the liver, and yes, like if the liver doesn't have the enzyme, then you have the toxicity in it. So it's like, well, think of if there's multiple things that you're taking in that your liver doesn't have the enzyme for. And then your liver is just so valuable and important for your hormone production and for regulation of your hormones. And again, if that's backed up and stuck, and then you potentially throw in high stress and overbooked schedule, emotional eating, poor sleep, and poor food intake, then you have all these other factors that are just making it even more difficult for your liver to function properly, let alone all of the other systems of the body. That's why I think it's so important, when we're talking about toxic load, that this piece, this skincare piece, is looked at, because for those of you who may already have a healthy relationship with food, who are already, mindful and paying attention, like this could be a missing piece of the puzzle for you that is having an impact on, the estrogen, your lymphatic system, your liver, all of the above, or one of them. So why do you think that it's important to that we pay attention to this, and that we do start to, reduce our toxic load when it comes to, our skincare and what we're putting onto our bodies?
Well, I think, because I guess the quick answer to that is that we now know that what we put on our bodies has an impact on our overall health. And I know when I've talked to you in the past that you've actually seen some dramatic decreases in estrogen when you've taken women off of using certain skincare products. And, so, and it's interesting, the more I'm looking at it first and foremost from an industry perspective, from a formulation perspective, and what the science is saying and what we know to be true. And then where also all the question marks are. And there's a lot of question marks in terms of where we're at today, in terms of, the actual cause and effect of certain ingredients. And we may never get there just because to isolate, one ingredient in a person's life. Let's say we're not in a petri dish and able to control it to that extent, right? But what is interesting is when I talk to health practitioners like yourself, who are working with clients in this way, where and seeing, like, in a fairly short period of time, right? Seeing that when you switch to natural products, over a period of weeks, and you retest, that there is a dramatic decline in some of these estrogen hormones. And so that's super interesting. Environmental Defense out of Toronto also did some really cool research where they were doing, and I can't remember who it was. I think it was somebody actually one of the co-founders, but they had tested their blood as a baseline, and then, or I think it was the urine actually. And then he had led a fairly healthy diet up until that point, did a baseline urine test, and then for a period of, let's say, 2 weeks, started to consume a lot of canned goods just to see if his levels of BPA went up, and they drastically increased. So again, we're at the very cusp of seeing starting to measure in a very rough way or back of the napkin way, when we eliminate this or when we introduce this, what is the effect on those levels within the body? And so, knowing that, then why wouldn't you switch to natural products? Why would you not then? I mean, I think at that point, your mind is forever changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's just even looking at subtle cues. Like I remember when I first changed what I was cleaning the house with, and it was all just like, all the stuff you buy at the store. And then I, changed all the house cleaners to all natural, and noticed one time when I had run out, I used what we had and got a headache instantly. So it's like, how long was my body, dealing with all of that? And I didn't even realize that, potentially some of the symptoms I was having was contributing to that. And even my boyfriend, he was using like just whatever store-bought, chapstick for his lips. And then he switched to the Rocky Mountain Soap Company, and he was using that, and he ran out, and then he found his old one, and he's like, I couldn't put it on my lips. The taste was horrible. All I could taste was chemicals. And so it's also that in-tuneness of not only, the switch, but then seeing what symptoms you do or don't get because of the switch, because now you're in this heightened state of being in tune with your body. And it's almost like your body communicates and goes, don't put that on my skin, or please don't use that, because now I can actually communicate with you by, giving you a symptom of some sort that is, I really believe the body communicates with us with symptoms to try and get our attention and go, you changed this. I really like that. And now I don't like that you're doing this again. Right. And so it helps us to have that awareness and those cues. And like you said, why wouldn't you want to change, after going through and then, knowing that you're having that reduction in the toxic load. And you could go and get blood work done before you change and then after, and see if you notice a difference there too. But it's also just to notice, like, do you have less headaches? Do you feel like you're having less water retention or less inflammation? Like, there could be many potential, symptoms. Like, do you have less eczema? Is your rosacea getting better? Is your skin clearing up? Because I think that's another avenue to look at here is, and I'm sure you've experienced this in that, people's skin clarity improves. Acne, eczema, psoriasis can start to go away when we're not putting all these things on the skin that are going to irritate it. So can you speak to that? Like the shift in what happens to the skin when we stop irritating it from the outside?
Yeah, well, I guess, there's so much to talk about when we look at what we're putting on our skin, and then what we just were talking about is, the inside of the body and the health of our body on the inside. And when we look at the outside, that's another 2-hour podcast to get into all that detail. There's so many interesting things happening there. But at the very basic level, when you look at the ground zero state of your skin, we have what we call microbiome or a whole bunch of bacteria living on our skin. And there's healthy bacteria and there's not healthy bacteria, the unhealthy bacteria. And keeping that balance, keeping that appropriate balance is our skin's first barrier against infection and inflammation. And so if we look at that very basic level of the desire to keep the microbiome of our skin in balance and in health, then it starts to change how you view the different products that you're putting on your skin and what that does to that barrier, right? And disrupting that natural barrier. So when we're looking at putting things, let's talk about a specific ingredient, triclosan or harsh detergents, harsh synthetic detergents in a face cleanser, or we're using alcohol on the skin. Well, it's wiping away everything, killing all bacteria. And then you're really just rolling the dice in terms of what is going to grow back. Is it the healthy bacteria? Is it the unhealthy bacteria? And at that point, your skin barrier is now out of balance. And then how do you get it back into balance? So this is the general kind of theory or philosophy around, the layer, the skin itself, and how we manage infection, inflammation, eczema, acne, psoriasis, all these other things.
The No Sugarcoating podcast is proud to partner with Nuco Natural Technology. Nuco Natural Technology is a Canadian company located in the heart of Calgary, Alberta. Nuco creates the finest and most effective natural health products in the industry through scientific innovation and understanding of nature's codes. Nuco has discovered the miracle molecule sulforaphane, which is a super antioxidant extracted from broccoli that provides long-lasting protection for 72 hours after consumption or application. This miracle molecule is supported by over 1,800 clinical studies over the last 25 years. Nuco's products range from supplements, skincare, to even chocolate bars, which use sulforaphane as its foundation, and I can tell you, the chocolate is delicious. The Brocogen 10 supplement contains sulforaphane, and one capsule is equivalent to eating 5 heads of broccoli. To learn more, visit nuconatural.ca and use code AMBER to save 15% off your entire order. Remember, that's NEWCO natural.ca with the code AMBER for 15% off. And so I love that because I talk about gut flora quite a bit, and that, microbiome on the skin, I think is so important. And I'm glad that you touched on that. So from that perspective, say someone has tried those products or is considering is there anything that you would suggest, if someone was going to, potentially look at something from Rocky Mountain Soap Company, or just something, less invasive, what would be just kind of a general suggestion or recommendation if you can make one?
Yeah, well, it's a couple of things. First of all, again, looking back to where the industry has come from. So, let's say in the last, let's go back 100 years. So, even the last 75 years. Mm-hmm. So basic soap was used for so many different things. And oftentimes people were making their own soap. Mm-hmm. And that was a very basic way to body cleanse. And we weren't cleansing every day as well in those times, right? Doing laundry and then cleaning anything, in the house was really taken from basic soap making. Then you fast forward, and at some point it switched to this world of Syndex or synthetic detergents, and those are the synthetic detergents. It overcame some of the shortcomings of soap, which is, soap didn't lather in acidic conditions, as one example. And so these Syndex or synthetic detergents came on the scene. They were cheaper. They were easier to manufacture at scale. They're often made from petrochemicals. Mm-hmm. And what happened was especially in the beauty industry, when we went from soap to cleansing bars or moisturizing bars, that was the switch to synthetic detergents and away from soap. And what happened was these synthetic detergents, these soap, or the new cleansing bars were made to be pH balanced. So they were made to balance the pH of the skin, but they were still, and so that became that marketing, that key attribute that consumers were latching onto. And that became, at that time, what people wanted to achieve in order to have optimum skin health was balanced pH. But what was happening was, even though these cleansing bars were balancing the pH of the skin, in some instances, they were stripping the skin of our natural oils and our microbiome and et cetera. And so then that started to, then we went into then fast forward, we go into the 80s, which was the oil-free craze. And we were all cleansing our skin with these alcohol products, and again, disrupting the balance of our skin. So today, what we know, having gone through those decades and those periods of what we know didn't end up achieving optimum skin health, where the school of thought is now is that let's talk about cleansers specifically. Oil cleansers is the best way to clean your skin and maintain that balance. It's counterintuitive to what we've been taught to believe. Mm-hmm. You can use oil to clean your skin, but think about it. Our skin has this natural oil, the natural sebum that we have on our skin allows us to have, well, it's really the reason why makeup and dirt and all these things stick to our skin, because we have this layer of natural oil. Mm-hmm. When we apply oil to the skin, it's like for like, right? So the oil that we're applying to the skin is sticking to the dirt and the makeup and our natural oils, and we're able to wipe that off without stripping that, what we have biologically already. And so things like that, and then that's, I guess, when you're looking at healthy skin, I think is another discussion when you're going into already problem skin. If you're in a situation where you have acne or eczema or psoriasis, oftentimes if your skin is in that condition, your skin may be slightly acidic. And so then in that sense, using a bar soap that's slightly alkaline actually tends to, that in that instance will tend to be a benefit, right? You're applying an alkaline soap, it then starts to then rebalance, or kind of puts your pH back to 5.5 or 6 in that instance. And then some people will see dramatic benefit from that if they have problem skin. So that was a roundabout way of coming at some of the specific products that you can do to maintain healthy skin. And nowadays too, we're also we're experimenting with some ingredients that are actually, when you look at microbiome and the healthy bacteria, think of what you're applying to your skin as a food source. And the food source is either going to feed, well, it could do a number of things, right? It can take away everything and deplete all the microbiome. It can, or it can be food for the healthy bacteria, starving out the unhealthy bacteria. And so that's kind of the latest, let's say, technology or way of thinking in terms of natural formulation that we're starting to apply, which is really cool.
I absolutely love that. And I think there's so much to be said for that healthy bacteria balance on the skin, because we know how vital it is in the large intestine, let alone on the skin. And that's very insightful. And, I think those are some just like simple, great ways to start approaching natural skincare when it does come to some of these, imbalances that a lot of people are struggling with. And so further going on back to the inside a little bit more. So I was talking a little bit about the estrogen dominance thing, which definitely like different stressors and liver imbalance and what you're putting on your skin can all kind of build up and have this big effect. But I want to talk a bit more about the lymphatic system, because again, this is, I think, such a huge area to give emphasis that a lot of people don't really understand or realize what an impact the lymphatic system has on the body. And I was one of those people until I started to support it more. So when you have, or you're looking to reduce your toxic load in the body, and you're starting to clean up some of what you're putting on your skin and using in your general environment, how do you think that may have an impact on the lymphatic system? Because again, like I know for me, if I go from anything natural to then, maybe I go and get my nails done at the salon and they're using, more not natural stuff, like I can taste it right away. So for me, that shift and seeing how quickly my system will respond and then clean it out of the body has been a big change. So I don't know if you've witnessed people like specifically working on their lymphatic system and then really being intrigued about Rocky Mountain Soap because it is all natural.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting discussion. It's not something that we see, or not something that I have seen specifically around people, we're thinking about lymphatic drainage, but, similar to what we were talking about earlier, it's basically at the end of the day, we are overloading our bodies nowadays. There's so many chemicals within our environment, so many different sources that it becomes a real thing. And this is something that we have to deal with as we, enter into adulthood, because at some point our bodies start to react to this overload. And so, I'm glad you brought this up, because lymphatic drainage is, another way to look at it, how we're managing that load, and then also then thinking about and being aware of and help facilitating our body's natural way of dealing with this overload. And so I think while I don't see that from our customers, it doesn't seem to be a topic of discussion that I've seen. What we do talk about it in the sense that like dry brushing is an easy way to encourage lymphatic drainage. Plus it makes you just feel really good, right? I'm sure you do it a lot, and it just feels amazing. It's a great way to start your day, or it's a great way to unwind before bed is to dry brush from your toes up to your heart, and then from your neck down and to the heart as well, always working towards your heart and the circulation, and helping your body get that kickstart to moving all that fluid through the body is a great way to achieve like a detox. And then obviously, physical activity, lymphatic massage, all these things is really about, getting the body to move and help facilitate that drainage. And then, I think what we're also talking about, I think that's becoming clear now is that, and then let's just stop also putting these chemicals onto our body.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I love all those things. Those are all great ways to get the lymphatic system going. And I love using a little bit of the, I can't remember the name. It's in a pink bottle. It's the massage oil, but it also doubles as a hair oil and in the bath. Yeah. I'll put a little bit of that on my dry skin brush because it just smells so amazing and do that routine. So, on average, I'm just curious, and the audience maybe as well, but how many ingredients and or like an estimate of toxins do you think would be in like your everyday store-bought deodorant or lotion?
Well, we've done some very kind of rustic research in terms of the number of ingredients. And so, our philosophy is 10 ingredients or less. Mm-hmm. The average that we've taken across a number of everyday brands is like upwards of, 35 to 40 ingredients.
Wow.
And so, my personal philosophy is it doesn't have to be that way. I really think, having worked with formulation chemists for so long, that the reason why we're here is because we first formulate to create physical attributes before we start to look at skin health. And so within that, say the 35, 40 ingredients, I mean, it's hard to say how many of those could be toxic ingredients, but, and the thing is, like, you probably see this too, Amber, but people, I know it's hard, right? It's hard to start to educate yourself and not feel overwhelmed.
Yes, exactly.
So, we could start to go in and look at, 20 different ingredients and the negative impact on human health that's possible at a certain dose, right?
Yeah.
They're all ingredients that are currently allowed to be in the industry. There's just so little regulation. And so unfortunately, we are forced to be in this situation where we have to do our own research and educate ourselves. And then at the same time, it can be extremely overwhelming. And I really get that.
Yeah.
And so I think, it's interesting. I think one easy way to help yourself and to simplify it is to look at some of the major ingredients that are known to be negative, and that, in terms of toxicity or health, so things like sodium lauryl sulfate, parabens, phthalates, triclosan. There are countries that ban these ingredients, and I think that we're going to see more of that as time goes on.
Yeah,
and looking at some of these ingredients, I mean, the industry is starting to talk about it. Consumers are starting to become aware of these names. They may not know all the details in terms of why they're bad and why we're talking about it, but at least to have that general awareness to start to look at the back panel of your products and see what's there.
Yeah. The No Sugarcoating podcast is proud to partner with Herbaland. Herbaland products are sugar-free, gluten-free, vegan, and made with love in Richmond, British Columbia. All of their vitamins and supplements come in gummy form, making them easy and fun to take. Their products are made for everyone to enjoy. Whether you are struggling with capsule fatigue, have trouble swallowing large capsules, or you simply love your vitamins tasting like delicious watermelon, Herbaland is for you. And a fun fact is that Herbaland is also the #1 gummy manufacturer in Canada. Be sure to check out more information and try your gummies at www.herbaland.ca. Yeah, that's the start. And like you said, it can be overwhelming. I think the key is to just start slow and to start like one thing at a time. So if someone, say, wants to start cleaning up their skincare routine and going to all natural, like, where would you suggest that they start?
Well, I think first of all, I like what you said early on. Like, deodorant is a great one, but it can also be very personal for people. Like, it is a risk. If you're changing deodorant, you don't know if it's going to work, and you have a busy day and you're out, in meetings, or you really can't take that chance, right? So, so I think here's how I look at it. And here's what I recommend is, first of all, find a brand that you can trust.
Yes.
And then it takes the guesswork away. Then you know that you have a whole bunch of options within that brand that you can work your way through, and start with one product that you're willing to take a risk on. Maybe it's something that you're already, a product you're already using that you're not in love with, and then switch that out, right? And I think aligning yourself with a couple of brands that have the same values as what you're looking for, and also can offer some of the attributes that you're looking for, because it's different whether you're 18 or you're 50 in terms of what you're looking for in your products, right? So finding that brand that resonates with you, and then starting to work your way through some of those products, starting one at a time, so you can really get a sense of, is this product working for me?
Yeah, I love that, because you're right. There's different demographic, different interests, and there are different body types. But I do have to say, if I can give you guys a plug, like I've been using the Roll-On deodorant for like 14 or 15 years, and I will never change it ever again, because it's so good and it lasts the whole day. And I've had clients who've switched over to it as well, and they are kind of blown away by how good a natural deodorant can be. And I think, one of the paradigms or the limiting beliefs that, we as society can start to work on is natural can work just as good, if not better than, what we've been taught. Right. Because I think a lot of people think, oh, well, it's natural, it's not going to work as well. Right.
Yeah, I know, that's such a big hurdle for us. And I'd like to think we're moving through that. And that's not, do you think it seems like that's shifting now?
I would say it is. I think there's still, I think there's a huge part of the population that's still maybe resistant, or just caught up in what is the everyday kind of mentality, that I think it's going to take some time to get a mass amount of the population there, but I think it's starting to move in that direction, right? Because I think as well, as people shift their skincare regime, or they start to eat better, or they start to even just like stop eating and multitasking, and then their digestion feels better. Once someone starts to feel better physically or emotionally, or both, about a change that they're making with their health and wellness routine, they start to buy into it more, right? So even if it's a small change, as they start to observe feeling better, they're going, oh my gosh, this is actually working. And then they can go, oh, well, maybe then next time I'm going to go back and I'm going to get a couple more of their products. And you know what I mean? So I think that awareness also plays a huge role.
I think you're right. I think, what we're talking about is very functional. We want healthy products. We want products that are going to work for our skin type and our skin issues. But at the end of the day, we also want to fall in love with a brand.
Yeah.
We want to fall in love with products. And you can have that. It doesn't have to be purely, functional or hard work or boring. There's so many great options today. And, I think that we're really lucky because we have been formulating for 20 years, we're now at this great place where we can have some fun and innovate in new categories and not be worried about, some of the, no, I wouldn't say it's boring, but you know what I mean? We're getting into this fun space, and the industry is doing that too, right? Where you can have it all. You can have it all today. You can have exactly what you're looking for and have that love factor as well, where you can still be in love with the brand and be in love with products and have it work and have it natural and healthy.
Yeah. And I love that, because we shouldn't have to compromise either luxury or certain, outcomes of using a certain product, or like a smell, right? Like you can have it all and have the benefits of using it as well. So speaking of the fun, you're talking about now, because you've had this time to really get to where you are, that you guys are having more fun. So is there anything exciting anything new that you guys are up to at Rocky Mountain Soap Company that you want to share with the audience, or anything fun that's coming up that, the listeners would, be excited to hear about?
Yes. Well, I felt like we went through this phase where we were working very hard on some categories where we were trying to understand natural formulation in hair care, or natural formulation in certain cleansing products. Mm-hmm. We worked through all those challenges, and now we're in this really great place where we are starting to have fun and focus on, I guess, because we've I guess because we've built up this great library of knowledge within the company, we're almost at this place where we can leverage that to do more innovative things. So some other things that we're working on is starting to play with local ingredients. And by local, I mean across Canada.
Awesome.
As well as in our backyard. And so we're starting to, we've recently purchased a bunch of really exciting equipment. And, we've worked with a local botanist in Calgary and starting to do a whole bunch of research to create a library of local ingredients. And I think that this is actually going to be a lifetime of work. This is not a 3 to 5 year project or even a 10-year project.
Right.
This is something that, I may work on for a lifetime. And it's really, the idea is to say, a great skincare ingredient doesn't have to come from Brazil or from the rainforest or from these obscure, beautiful places around the world. That within Canada, we have so much at our fingertips. And what's interesting is that a lot of these plants that have been used for, to either traditional medicine or healing, there's very little science to back that up. And so what we see is the opportunity to apply our natural formulation lens and science background to some of these ingredients and extracting our own ingredients and studying them and seeing how we can use them in future products. So that's really fun. We're also working on a cream deodorant. We're working on a new cream cleanser for the face, and potentially into some household products in the future as well.
Ooh, I love that.
Soap, and it's such a cool time in the history of Rocky Mountain Soap, and it's personally really rewarding for me right now to be able to work on all these really fun projects.
Oh, I can imagine. And like the creativity and your background, like there's just so much that you get to put into this, and it does have an impact on people's lives. Like when you go and you have that trusted brand, whether it's your brand or someone else's, you get excited to go, you get excited to try the new products and to pick up your tried, tested, and true, because you're taking home something that is going to have a positive impact on your health, your well-being, and that impacts your mood, that impacts everything going on around you. And there's this confidence that comes with, having that relationship with that brand. And like, I know that everything that I get there and that I use, I love. And, then you don't hesitate to share it with other people too and recommend it to other people. And I think that's so important to have that relationship that is integral, and that, again, you're excited. Like there's stores here that I can go to Rocky Mountain Soap Company at the mall, but like I'd rather, because I can, drive out to Canmore and like go to the flagship store because it's like an experience and it's fun. Right.
Yeah.
So, but it started off with buying a bar of soap, and here we are now. And I think we have like 20 or 30 of your products in our house that we use regularly. So it's like, but it started with buying a bar of soap. So I just think there's something to be said for a brand that has been around as long as you guys have and has expanded as much as you had, but it's still stayed true to your roots, right? You haven't sold out. You haven't all of a sudden started sneaking all this stuff into your product because you've grown. And I think that's important as well, because you don't want to have to compromise, the routine that you're in because a brand has changed. And so be it if some brands decide to do that. But I think it's important to stay in involvement with the brand that you're investing your dollars in, because things can change, right? So is there anything else that you would like to share? Any like key of your favorite like products or like key ingredients that you just love working with Rocky Mountain Soap Company?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. Like one, when you say that it started with a bar of soap, we have to remember too, we can have a very simple approach to making choices for our skincare. And we don't have to be using, a 12-step routine to cleanse our face. I'm exaggerating, of course, but, it can be very simple. And I think that is part of the philosophy that I've woven into the product development within Rocky Mountain Soap, is this idea of let's make it simple. In some instances, we've taken where we've had 3 or 4 products to offer and boiled it down to 1, because we felt like, at the end of the day, these 4 products are actually not that much different from each other. And why should we have to choose? Let's just make the best, and we sell the best, like our foot butter or our ultimate massage oil, trying to make it simple and just making the best. And, to your question about some of the really cool ingredients specifically, currently experimenting with wild chamomile, which happens to actually grow in the cracks of my driveway.
Wow.
And it tends to like very disturbed environment. So along the paths, and along the river behind our house. And it's funny, my kids actually brought this ingredient up to me because they did forest play camp in the summer. And then we would go on these walks in the mountains and they'd be pointing out the wild chamomile to me. Or they call it pineapple weed because if you squish the little yellow flower and rub it between your fingers, it actually smells like pineapple. And so that's another common name for it. So wild chamomile, which, I went for years unnoticed on my driveway. And now, it's like you have this medicine cabinet just on your doorstep. It's amazing. And then dandelion, horsetail, which grows in more of a wetter area around like damp soil or riverbeds and lakes. And then rosehip, of course, which being in Alberta, we're so familiar with. And those are some of the really neat ingredients that we're experimenting with. And they sound so simple, but you get behind the science and the actives within these ingredients, and it's amazing. And I often think it's like there's so many parallels to our industry and the food industry as well, because if you think about Italian cooking, it's about choosing the very best cherry tomatoes and the very best olive oil. And it's very, very simple. Yeah. And yet you feel so good, don't you? You feel so full and energized when you eat very nutritious, high quality, simple foods. And so it's very much the same philosophy that I apply to our formulation as well.
I love that. And, as you say that, the other thing that comes to mind is, when you have these amazing products to use, like you almost create this little self-care routine with it and you feel good doing it and you feel good with what you're putting on your skin. And I absolutely encourage my clients as they're, making these changes to like make a little self-care ritual, like take the time to wash your face and like smell the beautiful ingredients and the scents that are in whatever you got, or just like take a moment to have gratitude for the fact that there's the opportunity to get something that is good for your body. Right. So I just think that it's almost can become sacred to create a routine with these amazing ingredients and know that they are, doing really good for your body and your health and well-being.
It's pleasant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I absolutely am going to be sharing a bit more information as this comes out. There will be opportunity for you guys to click right through to RockyMountainSoap.com to read more about them, check out specific products and ingredients, and as well you can shop because they're available for order and shipping worldwide. As well, if you're in Canada, you'll be able to go and check out some of the local locations depending where you live. So thank you, Karina, again for joining me today.
Thank you, Amber. It's always such a pleasure. I know we could just go on and on and on. So really appreciate the time.
Yes. And we'll probably have to do a part 2 because like you said, there is so much we can get into. So thank you everyone for listening today. I hope you all enjoyed that. As I mentioned earlier, the show notes for today's episode can be found at amberapproved.ca/podcast/211. A wonderful thank you again for Karina Birch coming on the podcast today. If you want to shop, learn more about Rocky Mountain Soap Company, again, you can visit one of their retail locations here in Canada or go online to RockyMountainSoap.com to shop and maybe get some Christmas gifts for yourself and your friends and family. Amazing. I love the vanilla candy cane seasonal items that they have right now. If you have questions, feedback, or topics that you would like to hear me talk about on the podcast, you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca. I ask that if you have specific questions about your own health, that your questions be less than 150 words in length, as health histories need more support and private coaching may be a better fit. Also, be sure to check out my holiday gift guide, which actually includes Rocky Mountain Soap Company this year, as well as the winter edition of Amber Approved magazine. Both are available to click through in the show notes, or you can go right to amberapproved.ca. Also, make sure you head over to my Instagram, which is my name, Amber Romaniuk, ROMANIUK, to enter the holiday giveaways that are going on now for the next couple of weeks. Can't wait to see you there entering in to win some really great holiday gift guide items. And as always, there is no better time than the present to take action on your health. So take action now. Have a beautiful day, a great week, and I will look forward to sharing a whole new episode with you guys next Sunday. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, review, and rate this podcast and share it with your friends. You can find me at amberapproved.ca and follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Amber Romaniuk. Join me next Sunday for another brand new episode and another step toward body freedom.